Pro Wrestling Report, hashtag Feedback Friday. Damian Nelson sitting alongside David Hero, and we are on the weekend of WWE Hell in a Cell on pay-per-view or special event on the WWE Network this Sunday. Of course, we'll preview that in its entirety tomorrow night on primetime on My 24 Milwaukee. Of course, right here on PWRshow.com and on our YouTube channel as well. But here on this broadcast, David Hero, it's Feedback Friday, and what we do is talk about your comments, the comments you had for us. And we've got a doozy. Remember last time on primetime we were with you, we talked about the challenge of who was the better champion. Was it CM Punk or is it Seth Rollins? We decided that
got a lot of heat for that.
Got a lot of heat for that, but we also talked about something we've talked about time and time again, which is that John Cena is deemed the hardest working man in professional wrestling. And we did say that again last month. And we did have a comment on YouTube from a user by the name of KBEN, who said, and I quote, and I'll read this right here from the pewter.
Please.
If you don't
K-Ben?
K-Ben. This was actually on a episode recently, who says that Cena is just not that talented. I hate the fact that people say how he works harder than anyone. How does anyone know that? There are plenty of guys who bust their asses day in and day out and not even an eighth of the paycheck he gets. This is my opinion, but I honestly do not think it's hard to create a character like John Cena. You give a guy a new shirt every month, plus all the other ridiculous merchandise he rocks, and you book him to win all the time and make his character appealing to the kids. That's all it takes. Have him constantly shove down people's throats and feed him the title, and boom, you have the next
Let's give
John
Wade
Cena.
Barrett a new T-shirt every month. Let's see how many of those he sells. The reason why Cena gets a new shirt every couple months is because they sell. They sell like crazy. And he is the hardest working guy. No one else goes out there and puts in as much time as he does. I get a kick out of the fans that say that. Are the ones that have, like I said last month, the only time they've been in the ring was for a photo op with somebody. You know, so they don't know how hard it is to be a sports entertainer / pro wrestler. John Cena is the goose that lays lots of golden eggs. That's why he is pushed to the forefront. That's why he is main eventing. That's why he is the brand that sells Monday Night Raw. Right?
He's the brand that sells WWE.
Yes. People pay to see John Cena.
Another comment, and thank you for that comment, and another comment reference Rollins versus Punk, if you will. This comes from D. Knight Walker, who says, Rollins is good, but Punk was better and did better business than Rollins. That's taking into consideration that unlike with Punk,
Hold on a second. Wait.
Properly,
Pump the brakes. How does Punk do better business?
That unlike Punk, WWE wants to properly push Rollins into a prominent role. To be fair, I get it. WWE can trust Rollins. They couldn't trust Punk.
So how does Punk do better business if you can't trust the guy? They put
Punk. WWE was viewed by more people. Ratings were higher, and business was, well, I don't know if business was better, but ratings were higher during the CM Punk championship reign than it.
But that's not fair to say because at the same time they still had John Cena there. The Rock was involved on occasion. You know, you had a different cast of characters at that time. Some of those guys are gone now.
They are.
So I mean, every season it's a different group. So you know, yeah. Punk's era or the Punk reign may have been viewed by more people, but he also had a far better supporting cast.
I will take that and use that as your answer, sir.
Well, it's
Thank
true.
you for those comments, folks. We're going to take a timeout. When we come back, we're going to discuss this past Monday's podcast between Stone Cold Steve Austin and Brock Lesnar, which you called, David Hero, a
tremendously awkward show.
That when we come back here on Feedback Friday. Welcome back, folks, to the PWR Feedback Friday. Damian Nelson along with David Hero. Make sure to follow us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We are everywhere. You're even on Insta, right, David Hero?
Instagrizam, yeah. How about that?
I think it's okay. Fantastic, folks. And this past Monday night on the WWE Network, It was a podcast. Stone
Yes.
Cold Steve Austin and his guest Brock Lesnar. This went some 2 hours, David Hero, and
I couldn't wait for this one.
you know what? There was so much that could have been said, should have been said, that might have been said, that ultimately was said, but really wasn't said. Lesnar, look, this has been his reputation for a very long time. Brock Lesnar is his own man. He is not a people person. He doesn't like people. He doesn't want to interact with people. That's why his first run in WWE only lasted 2 years. He didn't want to be on the road. He didn't want to deal with it. He felt he could do something else, whatever that something else was. Brock Lesnar is arrogant. Brock Lesnar is...
No, he's not arrogant. I think he's confident.
He should be confident. He is one of the greatest athletes on this planet right now. There is no doubt about it. He was in 2002, and he is right now. However, there's past heat between him and Stone Cold Steve Austin that really wasn't addressed, even though Austin tried on this podcast, i.e. the walkout of Stone Cold Steve Austin due to a match with Brock Lesnar that, for all the reasons in the world, they both agreed on the podcast was the right thing to do. Not Austin walking out, but disagree with the fact that WWE wanted to have a match between Brock and Austin on Raw, unadvertised, for the WWE Championship, and Austin felt that was not the right thing to do. Brock Lesnar would admit as well. That sort of came up, but really the revealing things of the podcast were Brock Lesnar's real self, if you will. He is a legit tough guy. He is a legit badass. He is a legit star who is only in the wrestling business for the business. He does not love the wrestling business. He is there to make money. And I don't see how anybody can fault him for that. Many people watching out here have jobs. They work, they report, they punch a clock from 9 to 5 every day. How is that any different than what Brock Lesnar's doing?
Well, some of these people like going to their jobs. And
Brock obviously likes it. He doesn't have to do it. Instead, he has money.
He likes the payday.
Yeah.
It's all on his own terms. And the amazing thing about the whole podcast with Brock Lesnar was that every time you've seen a Brock Lesnar interview, it's been extremely pre-produced. Okay?
Edited, I would say. Not necessarily pre-produced, but edited.
Edited. And you've never...
He's rarely live.
You've never seen him raw like that.
Yeah.
And he's not comfortable talking.
Yeah.
You can tell.
Yeah.
Because there were times he would take like roundabouts to answer a question that should have taken 10 seconds.
At Austin.
And Austin did a fantastic job with him.
Not at first. The first 15, 20 minutes were incredibly awkward.
Because you didn't know. You know what it was? Is you have two of the biggest stars. There's been so many rumors going back and forth about Austin versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. Vince McMahon trying to squash all that. You know, in that studio, you had Hunter, Stephanie, Kevin Dunn, Vince McMahon, Road Dogg, all those guys in that room just watching and waiting to see what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And Brock Lesnar is so raw of an interview that you could just tell he doesn't give a damn. And he will say what's ever on his mind. And you can tell by his answers, even when they asked him what kind of music he likes, the first answer was David Allan Coe. You
saw him recently in concert.
I did.
And he is a unique individual,
he is extremely unique.
There's a reason I didn't go to that concert, right?
Yes, there's a reason why you didn't go. And that right there tells you the makeup and the psyche of a Brock Lesnar. You know, just who he is, what he likes, and he's a man's man, but he's an island all on his own.
Yeah.
He doesn't want friends.
Did this help or hurt Brock Lesnar?
I think it helped by explaining to the wrestling audience who he is, but I think it also hurt him when he says he doesn't go to hang out at the shows.
Does it hurt him?
Because it just makes him, more of a recluse, and it's like, man, he's like, what I took from it, and it's, he's just, I appreciate his honesty, but he doesn't care. Yes, he wants to be entertaining, he wants to have a good match, he wants to be the best he can be.
I think he said, and excuse my French, I don't give a shit. I think he said
Yeah,
that at least twice.
Yeah, and there were a lot of 7-second
How
delays.
do you not respect a man who can say that to an audience of people who are actually paying
But
to see him?
here's why.
How do you not
here's why.
respect that?
No, here's why. Because when you see interviews with John Cena's and Dolph Ziggler's, okay, and even The Miz, okay, and Goldust or Stardust, where they've always wanted to be a professional wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy says, I never watched it. I didn't like it. I only went there.
He pursued it. He did pursue it.
For one reason.
Money.
He was broke.
Yes.
Okay? He had nowhere else to go. Mm-hmm. That's why he did it. So it wasn't even like in his top 20 things he wanted to be as a kid. So he then goes in and he takes over and becomes one of the biggest stars by default because he had no other option. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So wrestling fans are so kabuki-ish at times.
Well,
I'm surprised there hasn't been more backlash.
They're passionate.
Yes.
Like the Cubs fans were.
Right.
You know, the New York Mets beat the Cubs 4-0 in the series. They're going to the World Series now.
Yeah, how does that make you feel? You're a Chicago guy.
I live in Milwaukee.
But you
I live closer to Milwaukee than Chicago.
You spent a lot of time in Chicago.
Much like a Brock Lesnar, these people on these football stars, these baseball stars, these stars, whether they win or lose, are going to make the same millions of dollars they were going to make when they walked in. So I truly don't care. I'd rather people cared more about things that actually impact their lives.
Like Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Which, by the way, I've been talking to his people lately. Interesting conversations we've had.
You know, I learned something recently about Donald Trump. I'm sorry, about Donald Trump's following. There are people in this country who truly believe they're going to be able to vote for Donald Trump as president of the United States of America. There are people who clap and cheer him and go to his rallies because they truly believe he can be president. If you are that person, with all due respect, you're a complete and total idiot. He is not intending to actually be president of the United States of America. He is working each and every one of you, and
he's building his brand.
It truly tears at my core that there are people.
But what if it does happen? What if it does happen?
That's his biggest fear. It won't happen.
But what if it does?
His biggest fear.
What would you do?
Look, we're 2 years out. We're a year and a half out, or whatever it is.
We're a year out.
Okay, it won't matter. Donald Trump will not.
He's not going to back. He's not going to quit.
He is. Look, it is going to be a great story. And once all these other candidates people aren't paying attention to, who actually could do the job of be president and do so effectively.
So you're saying when the shock and awe wears off?
I'm saying so. Donald Trump's fun to follow right now, but I've realized recently people aren't realizing that it's just for fun. They think he can be president, and
you don't want
to
see
a
wall?
Republican or Democrat, because I actually think Ben Carson is along with Chris Christie are two of the best candidates right now. But be that as it may, don't want to get into politics, but Donald Trump is a master entertainer and a master manipulator. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, well, and when I'm talking to his
he is great to listen to.
He is. He's fantastic.
I watched the Republican debate because he was on it. It's working.
Yeah, that's why you're doing it.
Speaking of which, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow night on Primetime, we've got all kinds of epic things to share with you, including you, David Hero, have to answer the challenge of Abyss. Will you face Abyss in a Monsters Ball match at Blizzard Brawl 11 with everything on the line? If you lose that match, if you accept and lose that match, you must leave the professional wrestling business. Will you have an answer for us tomorrow on Primetime?
Well, I don't really have a choice, do I? You just said I have to announce it tomorrow.
Well, we'll get that answer tomorrow along with a big announcement about some big names coming to PWR on a full-time basis. All that happens tomorrow night on Primetime, 10 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on My24 Milwaukee, on YouTube, and at PWRshow.com. So until then, folks, for that one, we'll see you again next week with a Halloween edition of Feedback
Spooky
Friday.
edition?
A spooky edition.
How about that?
Didn't work.
No.
Feedback Friday next week, right here on the PWR YouTube channel and PWRshow.com. So we will see you then, folks. Thanks for tuning in.